Home Depot paint mixes of Reddit. What is the weirdest thing you've had to color match? My mom took a can of Campbell's soups to Home Depot to get a color match for the red part. She then painted the kitchen, which was full of Campbell's soup chopsticks, Campbell's soup red. My dad works at Bunnings, equivalent of Home Depot in Australia, and so I asked him the question. Here's his response. A mum came in with her daughter in a swimming costume and plonked her up on the counter, and I color matched the bum of her swimmers, which were a bright blue that were apparently her school colors. My manager color matched a CAD once. Mostly people just try to have you match splinters or things that have multiple color tones into just a general vibe. I used to work at a sex shop. We took a dancer thong into a place to color match the shade of pink for paint for the inside of our store. They ended up naming the color booty pants. I worked at a store called Cloverdale Paint. I matched Sharpies, microscopic flecks of paint people scraped off their walls, a woman's teal underwear, and more. Maybe the weirdest one was matching a guy's girlfriend's iris color. He wanted to paint something the color of her eyes, so he brought in a close-up photo of her. It was difficult, because an iris isn't just one solid color, but it was fun, and he left happy with this kind of smoky blue. About 10 years ago I was working at Walmart in high school. This lady once came in and said she has a color in mind, but can't find anything similar. So she describes it, and I guess how to make close to it. It comes out, and she wants me to add a little more pink to it, so I do it and mix again. This went on for near an hour, but then I finally got it right. It was a great shift. Somebody brought in a bar of soap for me to match. I think it was Irish Spring. Older lady comes in with a Ziploc bag full of dirt. I figure she wants us to test its pH, or something. Nope. She has a walkway, and when it rains some of the dirt from her flower bed runs onto the walkway. She wants to paint the walkway the same color as the dirt, so it isn't as noticeable. I try to talk her into using landscape ties or something to prevent the dirt from getting onto the concrete in the first place. Nope, just wants to paint it. Okay, so I asked her if she wanted the paint to match the color of the dirt when it was wet or dry. Blew her mind. Oh, now that's long ago. I used to be very good at manually matching colors, no machines in those days. There was the standard bits of paper and cloth. One day someone walks in covered in dried paint and asks me to match the color on their arm. Someone has spilled the paint all over him and they needed more, but had lost the color identification code somehow. He stood around patiently for an hour until I sorted out an exact match. It's a tie between the large jar of ghee, clarified butter, and someone's skin. I got both of those within a week of each other. The skin thing was because a woman came in looking for a paint color that would match her skin, so I thought, fuck it, let's match her arm and see what happens. She loved it so much she ordered it for her whole house. I named that color Susan's arm. Edit, I forgot a couple of other weird ones. Scotch masking tape blue was really happy with how that one turned out. Multiple ottomans, a reading chair, dog fur, an egg, a painter's shirt and a painter's jeans. Whenever people ask me this question I'll respond with let me tell you about the skin woman, which is probably the worst out of context sentence you could hear out of a Home Depot employee. It wasn't a color match exactly, we just had to mix a very bright pink. It was afterward that the mom of this little girl pulled out a container of glitter and said, will this be able to be mixed in with it too? So we ended up just kind of saying fuck it and mixing a big container of glitter into a gallon of paint. I'm not sure if it ever worked, kind of doubt it did, but the little girl was super excited about her glitter paint. Overheard while buying paint for my son's room. Lady in front was complaining BC the green she ended up with didn't have the back quote speckle. She whips out a chameleon photo of I presume the same chameleon and is trying to tell the young lady that the color they made for her was so flat. The young lady was so confused. Lady kept asking why the paint didn't have the speckle like the photo and animal. stood there patiently, and watched the staff try and explain what dimensions are, how you can't match gradient, patterns etc with one shade of paint. Worked at Walmart about 18 years ago, and had to occasionally run the paint area. Wife and husband brought in a 4 foot by 4 foot piece of wall that they painted. They wanted me to match it. The wife then pulls a paint splotch from her purse, and says something like, "This is the paint we used from Home Depot." Some people are just born to entertain. I worked at Lowe's, but someone once wanted the blue color of the sign hanging above the paint area. There was no way I could get the sign down to put it in the scanner. I picked a paint swatch that I thought came the closest, and he agreed to it. My wife worked at Lowe's and had a lady come in asking for the color of the sky. My wife told her to look at the samples and pick a color, and she'd mix it up. The lady said, "No, I want the actual color of the sky," like she wanted her wall to look like the inside of a Vegas casino. My wife, seeing this lady is going to be a problem, asks her, "What time of day do you want? If it's nighttime, I've got black." Now the lady is getting upset that she can't just buy one can of paint to make her wall look exactly like the sky. My wife finished the conversation with, "Bring in a sample and I'll see what I can do." Lady then proceeded to ask for the manager. Not Home Depot, but had someone bring a chocolate milkshake into our store wanting paint matched to it. My other favorite story is a couple who bought Ben Hogan's house in Westover Hills in Fort Worth. They brought in a sample of something that was oil-based paint and had nicotine stains. We tried to explain to them that it used to be white or off-white, but the yellowing of the paint and the nicotine had turned it to this snot yellow color. They didn't care. They wanted the color Ben Hogan had been living with, just freshened up. Edit: Ben Hogan, old school golf legend from Fort Worth, Texas. Not Home Depot, but we had a customer come in with a statue of the baby Jesus from her church's nativity scene. The paint was chipped, and she said the price to replace the statue was too high, so she asked us to see if we could match it. The woman working the paint desk with me said she'd give it a try. She succeeded. That's right, she color matched the baby Jesus. I'm a tattoo artist, but I matched a skin tone to cover white spots on a black gentleman's hand. Not weird and not hard for me to do, but he was blown away after telling me how long he had the spots and how fast I made them disappear. I mixed dark brown with a hint of olive. It was an Ace Hardware, but I knew how to do paint mixing. A guy came in and wanted a color match. I walked him over to the mixing counter, and he handed me a broken off piece of wood, one of the paint stirrers you get anywhere, with a splash around the broken edge just after the handle. Some purpley lavender color. I'm just on autopilot and ask, "Okay, this color?" He stares for 2 full seconds, not at me, at the wood, and says, "Yeah," in a heavy tone. Like it was the color of his dead wife's eyes or something. We stood in silence as I did the scan, mix the pigments, and watch the shaker machine. Don't work with paint at all, but one day I got home, and parked next to me was a light green Thunderbird. I said to my wife at the time, "That color looks like it came off an Avon bottle. Skin so soft to be specific." About a month later the car was back, and I noticed a license plate on the front with a web address, so I looked up the site and emailed the owner. Turns out he was visiting the guy downstairs from me. They were in a band together, so I went down to talk to him. I asked him about the car and mentioned my comment to my wife and he laughed. Turns out the car was originally his mother's car. She had bought it brand new from the factory just to get that color. She had sent them a skin so soft bottle so they could make sure they got it right. Worked as a paint mixer at Home Depot for /3 years. Some of the things I've color matched: a leaf, a rock, a few shirts, a painter had color spilled on his hand but didn't have the color, someone brought in an entire door, termite infested wood, not weird but made a huge mess, Some grass for an outdoor deck. Lowe's paint counter lady here. Woman brought in a bowl that had been repaired with the Kitsunge method. Gold epoxy in a black and grey stone bowl. She holds it out to me like an otter showing its baby to the zookeeper. Can you match both these colors, please? She was so nice, and it turns out that she was designing her bedroom based off this bowl, and even had a matching urn for when she eventually dies. Which was so fucking shocking. I have my urn on the mantle and the way the light hits it is so pretty. I was never a paint mixer, but I worked for a company that would design and print signage for trade shows. A customer needed the red in their artwork to print the same as the color of their building. They found a loose brick from their building and mailed it to us. Spent more than a decade working at a paint store, and by far the weirdest thing I had to match was the toe beans of the customer's cat. At first I just grabbed a fan book of colors and was showing her what was in the ballpark. At this point she was holding her cat, and it was content enough in its owner's arms. This customer wanted a precise match using the color spectrometer though, and handed the cat over to me. The feline was not happy. At the very least it wasn't trying to squirm out of my arms, but it was giving me quite a stink eye, and was growling the whole time I was holding it up to the sensor. TL. Doctor, I color matched a very unhappy cat's paw